We're back. We
We're
did
back.
it. We
What's
figured out technology.
Yes, sir.
Hey, we are the Frequency Project. We talk about frequency and energy and vibration because we're big nerds. And we thought we'd come back and talk about our reactions to the Terrence Howard and Joe Rogan podcast, plus the recent, what's his name? Carson? I was going to say Carson Daly.
Tucker Carlson?
No. The other Billy Carson.
Billy Carson.
Billy Carson.
All right.
The
And
two
also that
pod-
guy Greg too. Greg, do you know his last name?
I don't think I saw that one.
The hydrogen guy.
Oh yeah, but that wasn't really that wasn't on Joe Rogan. That was just
Yeah, right.
Greg, the hydrogen guy.
Right.
So, a lot of stuff.
Also, we have Soul here.
Hi, Soul.
Hi.
You want to talk about frequencies and energy and vibration,
What's that song you used to sing?
dancing?
We are energy. We are energy. I like that song. Soul's actually a very good singer.
I bet. She takes after her godfather.
Which is David. Okay, so where do you want to start with all this? It's like so much shit. It's like
I know.
can't even...
I think the beginning when he starts bringing up the periodic table and the idea that all of the elements that are in the periodic table, bye Soul, are like they're in boxes, right? They're in boxes in the periodic table, and then they have them listed by atomic weight. And the way that we understand the elements, I feel like he was saying, is that they're all separate from one another. And what I think his point, what he was trying to make, is that none of the elements on an atomic level are, in fact, separate from each other. They are all connected. And he went on to connect them with frequency and with harmony, and meaning like if a frequency of 440 is representative of an element, then a harmonic of it would be 880, and then double that, you double that. And mathematically, you can come up with the harmonics of the fundamental frequency in music, but he was trying to relate that into elements. And I thought that was fascinating because when you get down to an atomic level, right, everything is vibration. So why wouldn't we relate material elements in our periodic table with frequencies? Why wouldn't we do that? It makes sense.
Right. Like
So
let's reel it back a little bit though. I mean, that's pretty, for some people, it's probably very like, oh, okay, what the fuck's going on here, right?
reel it back.
We gotta reel it back a little bit. Like, maybe where do we begin? I mean, the periodic table is like a hard place to just hard start on this, you know?
That's true. I mean, I have to be honest and say, like, I don't understand everything on the periodic table, but I think all of us at some point in our basic education has at least seen one, right? We've seen a periodic table, and we know that it's representative of a box with the big letters in there. So like Na is for salt.
Yeah.
Right.
And like most people probably
CL.
wouldn't. Yeah, most people probably don't. The average person probably has definitely seen a periodic table, but doesn't remember every single like
Element.
definition and element and what. Yeah. So, but if you just think of the periodic table as basically it's just elements, right? And it's just our basic fundamentals of life, essentially, right? So what Terrence is trying to say is, okay, the way that it's set up now is all these things are separate. It's like, you got I don't even know all the
Hydrogen,
like whatever, hydrogen, silica,
nitrogen,
oxygen, whatever,
boron.
right? So when you look at it, it's just like, oh, it's all these things, and you have to learn each one individually. But what Terrence is saying is they're all connected, because all they are is vibrations and different forms of vibrations, right? Essentially, that's what we all are, right? Like, we're all vibrating at a certain frequency, our own specific frequency, like a fingerprint. And that's how the periodic table should work, and that's how everybody should perceive it, right? And then he gets deeper into like equations and like math and stuff like that. And if you think about it, right, like think about like the what is it, pi, right? What is that, like 1 point fucking
0.1415,
yeah
16 something. That
yeah
goes
yeah
on.
yeah.
Yeah.
He's like that doesn't make sense. It shouldn't be so crazy like that. Everything should have a definite answer. And the reason why it doesn't is because he says that somewhere along the line, scientists, like, they couldn't figure out some shit because they were missing this piece of like connecting everything. And they decided to say 10 times 1 is 10, right? Oh no, right, that's the answer. 10 times 1 is 10, or 1 times 1 is 1. When he's saying you can't add something or multiply something by something and get the same original number. It doesn't make any sense.
Right.
So once you start doing math in a different way, meaning like 1 times 1 is 2, or 10 times 1 is 11, then all the equations match up.
Right.
And
I don't think
has a solid, definite answer.
Yeah, I don't think it's as simple as that, but I think I do think the concept of what he's talking about, that maybe the reality that we live in right now could be so fucked up because it's based off of our knowledge of the reality as we know it may not be correct. And if you just let that sit with yourself for a second, it's like you look around the world right now and everything just seems kind of fucked up. And then you think maybe it could be because our idea and our knowledge basis of reality is not correct.
Yeah, our like fundamental understanding of literally everything, including ourselves, is skewed slightly. So like in a long time frame, that it's like basically if you're if on like an angle, a degree, right? Like if you're a degree off, you might not notice it right away, but in a long distance, that 1 degree can really shift you off course.
That is a really good way to describe it. For
Yeah,
sure.
and that's kind of how we are as a culture at this point, because there was fundamentals that we were missing at the beginning when we discovered all these different how creation happened with like the earth and all these other things. It's just a little bit off, and we're not seeing the full picture.
Right.
So he's saying this is the confusion in people's mind of we're searching. Everybody's like searching for the truth, and we can't put our finger on it. Everything Terrence Howard is talking about is that thing that you would put your finger on.
I agree. I think I started out with the elements because if you think about the reality that we all live in together, most people agree on what reality is based off of what we see with our eyes.
Mhm.
Our senses, we have so many different senses, but our eyes are generally the ones that our eyes is generally the sense that we all agree upon what reality truly is, right? If we can see it, then we believe it. But we also know that there are things like our cell phones, right? They operate off of waves and frequency that we cannot see,
Yeah.
but we know that they work. Nobody really talks about that. And the same thing is like we turn on a light every single day in our house. We don't, not everybody knows how the lights work. They just turn on and they turn off.
Yeah.
So most of what we can see is what most people base their entire reality and existence off of. And when he's talking about the periodic table and just the very fact that we don't even teach people or see that they are connected to him and to me is a problem. Everything is connected. And there are different ways of science. What he was talking about, the universal law of one, and all this different type of math that he's doing with just tweaking the math that we have right now to describe the reality that we live in. He's tweaking it a little bit and making it connect so that everything is connected like it truly is. When you look out at nature and you see how it is all connected, we are connected in that way. We are nature, and our understanding of it is skewed.
Yeah, like we everybody's heard that before. You know, we're all connected, you know,
Right.
whatever, but nobody can really put their finger on exactly like they know, but they don't know, right?
Right.
And this is it. This is like I think what ultimately to manifest things into reality, there has to be a certain amount of people that understand or believe in a certain thing for it to actually manifest in the world, right? So this is the reason why we don't see it, because there's only so many people that understand what Terrence is talking about, right? And once we hit a certain threshold of understanding, then we will start to see these things. Now he's got this whole thing like packaged up very nicely for the world, where he's been patenting all these things and he's actually creating these things, right? So in the next couple years, you're going to start seeing these hydrogen run machines and fly. What does he call the lynch pins that he designed? And
Mm-hmm.
they're just basically like little.
Tangential flight is what he calls it.
They're
Tangential
basically
flight.
yeah, they're basically little drones, but they can connect to each other, and then they can do stuff, right? And they fly without using any kind of energy besides hydrogen. Um, so he's got patents on this. These are actual legitimate products that he's making, and it's all connected to everything we were just talking about with the periodic table, consciousness, being aware of yourself, the truth. All this stuff is connected into these devices. Now, once he has these devices out and people actually see that they're actually working and it's a thing, that's when it's this flood of like, oh, believers, and then it manifests and then becomes reality, and then everything, then he gets to explain himself of like, this is how I develop these things, because this is the actual way our fundamental system is supposed to be working, and we've all been doing it wrong.
Right.
And at that point, everybody has to be like, oh, right. When he talks about it now, it's all theoretical. So nobody really believes it. But once there's a product that is actually showing people with their eyes, like you said,
Right.
it's over.
Yeah. I think that he's he's definitely onto something, and it's not just him by himself, right? He's talking about John Keely's frequency experiments from 1872. He's talking about Walter Russell's periodic table that's been around since the 1800s as well. There's been a lot of people that have always thought this way since as far as we created physics, when Newton was around. And we just decided to go with Newton. We decided to go with Einstein instead of Tesla. I also think that there are some nefarious and financial interests involved as well. Like when you talk about electricity for everybody that Tesla was inventing and created, it was easier to go with um, Edison's version of electricity because we could monetize it.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I wouldn't say easier, but it was definitely JP Morgan and then Edison wanted to make money off of this as opposed to give it away for free.
right.
Now, also, once if we want to get into like Billy Carson there in his interview with Joe Rogan, both of these interviews, like if you're watching this and you haven't seen them, you need to go watch them. The Terrence Howard and Billy Carson. But anyways, so getting back to Billy Carson, so he believes that our history is also skewed, and I believe Terrence Howard believes the same thing.
Right.
Whereas like maybe humans are millions of years old and we've just lived through different eras that have either gotten wiped out or whatever. And if you look back to like Egyptian times, which Billy Carson is like super into, they may have gone the route of the Tesla route and free everything for everyone. And it created this like thriving culture, but then something happened at some point and all that got wiped out. So yeah, I mean, it's like as a culture, I guess we all have choices, but when there's higher powers that control the perception of those choices, that's where things can get skewed. And if we as a culture don't do the research on our own to like really understand things, then we just say, well, they know better, and then I guess this is the way. And literally thousands of years go by and you fucked yourself and everybody that comes after you, you know
Yeah.
it's crazy. But
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people out there that feel like something is wrong, things aren't right. And I think this really put, like you said, the finger on it for me, that when you think about just math in general, that math is what we use to describe the reality that we live in. And if that's skewed, or we're fudging numbers so that what we tried to make work because we've done it for so long, we don't want to change. I think he's onto something. That I think it's time for us to just take a step back and just look at how things are and really think about what's going on, and that he may be right. He may be 100% right.
I think I just said this to my wife yesterday and I was just like, man, although generations before us lived through like not having telephones and then all of a sudden being able to talk to somebody, states over or whatever, that was like incredible change and shift. Or like the invention of the plane, or even the ship, or things like that were like huge cultural shifts.
Right.
But you and I, if you're in your 40s, you've literally lived through no internet to internet, no cell phone to cell phone, Um, and what else? What else? There's
COVID.
fucking driving, self-driving fucking cars.
Yeah.
You know, like there's AI. You know, there's probably a handful of other fucking dramatic shifts that have happened in our lifetime, and I feel like we're just scratching the surface. Like in
I
the next
agree.
like 5 years, it's gonna be some other dramatic thing that's just gonna whatever we've been fucking doing is just gonna be like stupid. You know,
Right.
like why were we just doing that for like 100 years? You know,
Yeah.
so
I mean, just
I
looking. Oh, sorry.
oh no, I was just saying that like I think we're like this we're so lucky we're in this generation that we get to see all these transitions. You know, we're only like literally not even halfway through our lives at this point. There's so much more. And I don't think any other generation has been able to like really live through this many shifts.
Yeah, I would agree that technology in general is rapidly changing how people live.
Hmm.
That is a fact. I mean,
Yeah.
if you just look at post COVID, how everyone was able to figure out a way to use technology to work from home. And now we've got these quote unquote hybrid jobs, and some are just fully remote now, where people are literally able to make a living just being at home.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was unheard of. And now we have jobs where you're like my brother, he goes to work 2 or 3 days a week in the office. Same with Melissa, my wife, same with myself. It's like there's the ability to communicate with people, a whole office, a whole team, and get shit done, but differently. And that's just one example, right? Of how, I mean, it's dramatic. Technology is dramatically changing how we live.
I mean, look at this example of like rapid fucking change. Literally a couple years ago, even a year ago, like kids have been going to school because like programming and coding has been a thing, right? Like we need this. This is the future, right? Being able to program different whether it's games or softwares or whatever, right? So like kids have been going to college for this shit for the past couple of years thinking this is the future. Nope, it's gone. That's already gone. It's already gone because of AI. You can literally go on ChatGPT right now and say, fucking code me, give it all the details of whatever you want on your fucking website, and it'll go, and you copy and paste. Done. You don't need that job anymore.
Yeah, I mean,
You know?
technology is doing that to so many jobs. I mean, look at just the grocery store with the self checkout.
Yep. Yep.
Like we've seen that transition happen so rapidly, and even call centers. Like I remember um, Andrew Yang when he was running for president 20 was that 2020? Yeah,
2020.
2020. He was talking a lot about how he's friends with so many people that are in the technology sector in California, and how they were trying to mathematically come up with a different way of earning income, because literally millions of jobs will be just put out instantly with technology. Like truck drivers are a huge job in this country. They could be put out with Tesla self-driving trucks in the next 10 years. We got the checkers, we've got even waiters and waitresses. When you go to some not even fully fast food restaurants, they've got screens now. There's nobody to greet you. You just press what you want, and it fucking comes out.
Yeah. And in my mind, I mean, obviously it would suck if you're like one of those people that are doing that job now, but in my mind, like, fuck, that's a job that you don't want anyways,
Right.
right? Nobody really wants that job anyway.
Most people were
Like,
correct.
let's make life more efficient and focus in on things that are actually productive to the culture, you know? Um, and a lot of luckily a lot of like people that have those types of jobs like fast food stuff, they're kids. There's no like I mean, I'm sure there are a handful of like older people management or whatever that are working there, and it's going to suck for them. But most of them are kids, so like they'll figure something else out.
Well, it's just an unfortunate byproduct of what technology is going to bring.
Yeah,
Whether
and
you like the job or not, these things are happening, and we have to think of, think our way out of it, or think our way into whatever the next era of work is going to be. Ideally, everybody would be brought up as kids to learn what your passion is in life and follow that passion and be able to be monetarily compensated for that passion, but also culturally recognized, right?
maybe that's the future though. Maybe we do start doing that and we follow our passion, but maybe there is no monetary value on it anymore because all the things are just taken care of by technology or AI,
It could be. There could be
like,
robots freaking
yeah,
gardening for us, making food for free, and
right.
living off of
Farming, all
pulling
that shit. Right.
pulling hydrogen out of the air and running off of sunlight and hydrogen. I
Well,
mean,
that's ideal, but that's what they're trying to fight, right? Like that would be great if you could
who's
just
they, Joe? Who's
uh,
trying to fight that?
the people that like oil companies
There we
that
go. Yeah.
have money, right? That are trying to control the energy supply, right? Because they're making money off of it.
Pharmaceutical industries.
Pharmaceutical industry, because basically pharmaceuticals are all natural products that they just take and reconfigure things so they can patent it, and it's always fucked up because they're doing that, right? And but it all is available in nature if we just allow it to be there, um yeah. I mean, they are people that it's conglomerates, it's genres or whatever you fucking want to call it, like you said, like the pharmaceutical industry, the oil industry, and it's not the people that work in those industries. It's the conglomerate itself needs to go away. We don't need it anymore, really. If Terrence Howard is correct and he is able to do what he says he's going to do, you can literally pull hydrogen from the fucking air to power your car, your house, your fucking anything you can think of. So why do we need to pay these fuckers? But they're not gonna go down easy because they're the ones making all the money right now. So they're gonna do whatever the fuck it takes to like keep the control and not let this cat out of the bag. But hopefully it's done and it's presented either through Terrence Howard or whoever to the world in a manner in which it can spread extremely fast and inexpensive to develop.
Well, you were just talking about like kind of if enough people right on this planet are able to really understand this in a deep way, in a conscious way, then maybe enough of us will connect and affect the greater whole. The idea is that there's this field that all connects us called the morphic resonance or the information field. And this information field that exists around us at all times is connecting us. And so all information of everything is always available to us at all times. So if enough of us are resonating at a particular frequency, then it would be enough to get other people to resonate at that level, even if they're not at that level, which is kind of like the idea of plucking a guitar string and other guitar strings resonate, right? That one is plucked and it sends out vibration and all the other strings start to resonate sympathetically. We all have that same principle within ourselves because we are all vibration. We're all fundamentally patterns of frequency running, and we all connect to each other in different frequencies, different layers, different levels. It's complex.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've talked about this before, but like the 100th monkey theory is essentially what you're talking about. Where have we talked about this, or I'll just briefly explain it real quick?
Yeah, no, we did talk about it, but I always feel like bringing that up is kind of like
Because it's just a theory, right?
no, because people have tried to debunk it so much.
Right, right,
Um,
right.
and I think the Maharaja effect is more, that's scientifically proven.
All right, what's that?
Where all the monks get together in a certain town and just basically
Mm,
pray that the crime rate goes down. And every time they do it, it goes down by like 25%
right,
or more.
right.
And,
Yeah,
and
it only
that's scientifically proven. They do it every time, and they've been doing it since the 70s.
right,
And
and it only takes a small amount of people, really. I think it's like not even like 10% or something.
right, that to me is the power of community and vibration. And when people get together with the same ideas or thoughts, whether they're quote unquote good or bad, once that frequency is resonating, it's easy to get people all on it together.
Yeah, and the key is actually like believing in those thoughts and understandings and beliefs, right? It's like you have to really go in on it, understand it, maybe not actually like know that it's factually possible, but like theoretically, you're like, yes, this can work, right? It was kind of like Bitcoin. Bitcoin had this like blockchain thing when it first came out, and it was just like, nobody can like hack into it or nobody can like alter it, and there's only going to be 21 million Bitcoin, blah 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 blah. And the idea was sound. It was fundamentally sound, and like people were like, okay, let's. And then there was enough people that were just like, yes, this is working. This is going to work. That it is where it is now. Just like, so that's it. That's anything. That's like really the power of manifesting. And nobody can. The more I think about this, I'm like, nobody can really manifest by themselves. If you like, we can, like, I can say I'm going to start a cell phone company, and it's going to be the best cell phone company, and it's, my phone is going to be whatever. It's going to be a little bit different, where I don't even know, like it's got some special little tweak in it that's different than all the other cell phones, right? But the cell phone was already made. So people are already on, they're like, yes, and now we're just searching for like, how do we make it even better? How do we make it better? And if you create a company based around something that people already believe in, but you've just tweaked it a little bit, you just have to convince them of the little tweak as opposed to the new thing.
Like the full concept of a
Right, the
cell
full
phone.
concept of it. Right. So like that's what people are doing, quote unquote, on their own, I think, right? But like there are certain people that are taking, like, even like a Tesla, like a Elon Musk, he's just taking things that have already been essentially created, but making them a way better, more efficient, and just selling people on that part of it, right? But it's a rare person that can literally bring something that has never existed on Earth. I guess, yeah, even like the cell phone. I'm just kind of like think talking right now.
Yeah.
Even like the cell phone, before that, there were phones, and we even had the portable phone where it could go away from the stand in your house and you could be on the other side of the house and would work. So we were kind of already understanding of that capability, right? And then somebody was just like, oh, I got that same thing, but you can go on the other side of town, or you can go fucking to the other side of the country. So yeah, I can't even think of something that somebody just like literally manifested on their own. Tesla did. But look, it never came to fruition because enough people didn't fucking catch on to it to like push it to that next level.
Well, even then, he was vamping off of other people like Edison, Tesla. There was a guy, Mercola, I think, or
Marcone or something. Yeah.
yeah, like all at the same time, they were kind of researching the same stuff. And that could also, whether they talked or not, or communicated or not, or whether each other knew about each other.
I'm sure they did, but it was, I mean, you're only talking about literally a handful of people, like 5 or 10 people or whatever, that are like, you know, really getting deep into these things. So that's why I have a lot of hope for Terrence Howard, because of literally what we're doing right now. You know, we're prepping the stage just by talking about this stuff.
I
We're
agree.
getting people even thinking about this stuff, you know, and then when he really lays out his whole plan and actually shows a product, it's like the groundwork has already been laid, you know, just in the past however many weeks since he's been on that podcast. But even prior to that, he's been talking about this since he was fucking born,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And there's lots of other people who are totally understanding this, and you know, they're people are starting to really wrap their heads around it. And the key people that have the ability and have the funding and have the freaking knowledge base to really comprehend everything that he's saying are looking at this already, you know. So I think it's just a matter of time, and it's not going to be a very long time.
Yeah. I think another point to that is a lot of people can easily mentally discredit Terrence Howard for being the brilliant person that he is just because he's famous as an actor.
Hmm.
Because I think it's really difficult for people to think that how can he be a good actor and also a physicist at the same time?
Hmm.
And I would beg people to just think deeper in that, why do we think that way? Like why is it hard for people to believe that we all can be more than one thing? And that like goes back to connecting those, the periodic table and the boxes, thinking that every element is in a box, and chlorine is always going to be chlorine, hydrogen is always hydrogen, nitrogen is always nitrogen, when really all the elements are connected. And that's the same with people. Like people, we aren't just one thing. We're not just a Republican or a
Hmm.
Democrat or a man and a woman. We are a bunch of things all at once. We're
Right.
complex. We're so many different layers that make who we are. And I think if we stop and really think about that, then it would be easier to consider him speaking the truth.
And I think most people can understand that. The reason why I believe that people do the putting people in boxes or certain seeing things only in a specific way is because of media. Media presents it that way, right? But we don't have to listen to certain things like you know, a lot of new podcasts now are talking about all these, especially like a Joe Rogan podcast. I mean, look at Joe Rogan in general, right? The guy's like MMA announcer, very famous at that, and then he's also, you know, does his own jujitsu stuff. He's got his world famous freaking podcast, and then he talks to anybody from like comedians to freaking physicists to freaking, you know, uh, um, uh, state representatives, like anything, and he kind of meshes it all
Yeah,
in one show. And 10 years ago, everybody would be like, "That's fucking impossible." But now he's
true.
proven, he's just done it, and then it all works. It's chaos, but it all works. And
Organized chaos.
right, and everybody loves it. So
Yeah.
I think it's just like it takes like more people like that doing those types of things, of just like doing all these different things. I mean, you know, like you and I have had multiple different lives up until this point, doing different things from music to freaking, engineering to, yeah, I remember you used to work for like some like sales agency that like fucking hated, like, right. I mean, you worked at like restaurants and like all kinds of things. And at those moments in time, that's what you did and part of who you were.
Right.
But then you evolve and you change. And I think that's part of this shift too. We all need to be more compassionate and understanding that we are all constantly evolving. And
Right.
like just because I thought a certain way 5 years ago, have you talked to me in 5 years? Maybe I've changed my mind on some things. Let's have the conversation about it,
Right. Right.
like if everybody looked at themselves, they would totally understand and realize that like I am not who I was 5 years ago. And if I am, it's because I have been put in a box by my people that I surround myself with, and I've allowed that. And I'm probably feeling restricted in my life if that's the case, Hmm.
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 It's going some good shit.
But see how like all this shit's connected. We went from like we're talking about hydrogen drones to understanding yourself and like not being put in a box. Like all that stuff is connected, but you have to put the pieces together. You have to see how you're connected, and who cares what everybody else is saying and how things should be or whatever. Like you can be multiple things at once. You can think different ways. You can change your mind every day about all kinds of fucking things.
Right.
And it's just that mentality needs to, that we need a more open conversation about all kinds of things as opposed to like this. No, this is how it's supposed to be. This is how it's always been. So we put that over there, and that's this crazy person, and then this person is over here. Oh, they're actually really great because media says that they're a famous actor, and okay, let's praise them because they're good people and they do all the right things or whatever. Like, don't listen to that shit. Just we gotta just do what we love doing. But I think it all comes down to the fundamentals of literally math and formulas and fucking the skewed perception of reality that we've been living in for thousands of years at this point.
Right. Terrence Howard said that they were antiquated fundamentals.
Yeah.
And that to me really resonated because it does feel like we're at this point where this fundamental understanding of the universe and our reality is no longer working. It's antiquated.
Right.
It's like we're still trying to explain our reality in the universe using a Texas Instrument calculator. Like, it's just, we are beyond that. Like,
Yeah.
humans are beyond that. We may not be able to fully um, use words to describe it, but I think we all know that we're going through a massive change in consciousness in the way that we understand our reality,
Mm.
in that the way that we've thought about our reality in the past and what we've used before is now antiquated fundamentals. So, like Euclidean math, Newtonian physics, these two things that are the basis and the fundamentals of our reality may no longer work.
Right. They got us to a certain point, and now we need to expand on that because it's the fundamentals were fudged.
Flawed or flawed and
Fudged.
fudged. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, who knows if they're purposefully or what? But it is that the truth is it is flawed. So, or we will find out whether it's flawed. I believe that it to be true because these are things that you and I have been searching for. I mean, it's the reason we started the Frequency Project,
Right.
basically, because we're like, okay, we know that vibration is doing something. What
Right.
is that? Okay. And when Terrence Howard had that podcast with Joe, I was like, this is it. Because he's talking. I mean, we skipped over a lot of stuff because we kind of, reeled it back a little bit. But, he's literally saying that to create matter, all you have to do is combine these elements and feed them certain specific frequencies to hold them together in a certain way. Am I correct in saying something like that? I mean, that's a very general
Yeah.
way of saying it, but I'm just trying to make this I'm trying to simplify all of this because it seems very high level stuff. We're talking about like hydrogen, pulling it out of the air, freaking periodic table, elements, freaking Newtonian, whatever, right? That can overwhelm people, unfortunately, but it does. So I'm like, how can I simplify that? You take a specific frequency, you take elements, and they're bound. They are manifested in a certain pattern, in a certain way, because of the sound, because of frequency, right? This computer, this table, this plastic, it's all the same fundamentals, but the vibration within them are different.
Correct. Yeah,
Right.
I think that's what he was getting at, and lots of people like John Keeley and other people who have studied frequencies are they're it's the scratching the surface of trying to figure out what this new version of reality is, and I think that quantum physics has been that for a long time. People are using quantum physics principles now to try and understand the universe, and I think it's still in its infancy when you compare it to something like Newtonian physics.
Yeah, I wonder if Terrence Howard, if he's thought about like running his equations through like a quantum computer where it just like boils down every single fucking thing that he's talking about. Do you get what I'm saying? Because right now with like our current like computing system, it's like they would run out of like terahashes to like process all this information. But like a quantum computer is like infinite amount of like space to process this, and if a computer can like run through and simulate everything, which he's kind of already sort of done with like recreating. So what was that program? I'm kind of skipping around a little bit, but what was that? It was like it was like what do you call it?
Simulation.
Yes, a simulation. So it's basically some sort of simulation computer that simulates space, like the being in space or like lack of gravity or whatever. And you can add whatever you want into it, and it creates this. Why am I thinking? I can't think of the word.
A simulation.
Simulation, yeah, but it creates like this space in which
A simulator. It's a simulator that's simulating.
is that it?
Yeah, I mean, they, the way that I understood it is that he used his universal law math without gravity. Gravity did not exist, and it was using opposing magnetic and electric fields, and putting the math in his new math, he recreated Saturn.
Right. So he's in this space. He creates a whatever environment you want, right? So his environment was no gravity, right? And just some material coming off of the sun, correct? and just the time, the amount of time it moves away from the sun. Was that in the simulation, in the equation, or I don't know?
I don't know. I know he talked about a lot of stuff, but I don't know what was specifically in the simulation. They just kind of quickly went over
Right. He
it.
didn't really talk about
Yeah.
what was in the sim. So basically, all right, let me try and think of a simple way to say this. He's saying that all planets come from the sun, right? All planets around the sun come from that particular sun. There's multiple suns out there, but so when a planet is created, it just basically it's a piece of the sun that gets fucking ejected out. And then as that moves away from the sun, there is a pressure and there was a pull. And it's not gravity. It's just pressure or frequency or something like that. Anyways, so as it comes away, it's creating more pressure or less pressure, one or the other. Anyways, so
you are really digging a hole here.
Yeah, so he puts all this stuff in and his way that he believes that a planet is created, and it creates Saturn at the specific location away from the sun at which Saturn is. I don't even know why I'm trying to describe this.
Yeah, you have to really,
because you wouldn't try to describe this, would you?
No, I think you really gotta know
making it
all the principles that make up planets. But I think the point that he was trying to make was that at the end of the day, how they recreated Saturn in that simulation, it didn't have gravity. And also the other main point is, at least I know from my studies in college, I took an astronomy class and we talked about stars. And stars always start with hydrogen, and then hydrogen starts to, the way that they described it in astronomy was that nuclear fission was happening, which is kind of pressure over time. And when that pressure and the friction of the hydrogen atoms start to move around each other, then new elements are created. And it just keeps compacting and compacting and compacting until you get carbon. And so when you have a sun so big, it's a red giant, our sun, and it's hydrogen, and I don't know what other elements are inside our sun, but he's saying that hydrogen in solar flares gets ejected out, and that mass or that gas that comes out is plasma. And then there may be currents of pressure, kind of like ocean in the sea, kind of situation in space. And over time, because everything moves in spirals, at the center of that spiral, the hydrogen gathers and then creates something new, which could be another star, or he's postulating that with magnetism and electricity and just plasma from the sun and some hydrogen, that planets are being created. And I think that concept is like, but I mean, Stephen Hawking is doing the same thing with Newtonian physics, getting to a point where we're using zeros and coming up with black holes mathematically because we can't describe what's actually happening in space with the math that we have currently. So call Terrence Howard crazy, but we're fucking crazy as well. We're trying to use math to describe what's going on up there, and we don't live up there, and we're doing our best. But I think he's inching to a new way of understanding that magnetism, electricity fields work together to create matter. And I think we can see that even with our bodies. We have an electric field, we have a magnetic field, we are made of matter, we are made of elements, and they're all held together with magnetism and electricity working all together. Whether you believe it or not, that truly is reality. That is happening. We just can't see it. And we're just now with instruments trying to measure it and describe it in a different way, because we're more than just this. Where there's light coming off my body that you can't see. There's infrared. There's all these magnetic and electric fields around my body. And I mean, they've known it for a long time. They've called it an aura. They've called it prana. They've called it all sorts of different things in different cultures. And for whatever reason, we're in this period of like blackout where people now just don't think that we're anything. We're just pieces of matter meant to work 9 to 5 all day and just keep going until we die. And that to me is just, we're way more than that. The universe is more than that. And we're trying to break the old paradigm and move into the new one. And the new one is going to shatter your current world reality when you start trying to embody these new concepts of frequency and vibration in your life and thinking of things in that terms, right? Those terms.
Right. That was way better explanation than than mine.
I was just vamping off of what you started.
No, thank you for that. Yeah, you were just like watching me go down this fucking shithole.
I was trying to steer you away.
Like space and gravity. So
no, it's a lot because it's shattering our current worldview, and we're trying to figure out ways to describe it, right?
And my thing is like, I'm most of the time when I'm talking about things that I'm like learning about or whatever, I'm literally talking to you in real time. So I'm like, all right, what do I know right now? I don't know. I know this. And then I'm like thinking about what I'm talking all the fucking time when it comes to new stuff. So I apologize for that. So I found this, I think I found the simulation that he showed on Joe Rogan here. So hold on.
The Saturn one.
Yeah, hold on. Let's see if this is it.
Yeah, maybe they'll tell us.
Yeah, he might talk a little bit more.
Can you go full screen with it?
Oh, yes.
That little bottom corner on the video.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
Two groups of vortexes, which are just like tornadoes, spinning tornadoes that are pointing towards the center. As I highlight this object here, you'll see it, that yellow line, right? So there's a bunch of those in there. There's actually 16 of them, and I'll highlight them all. There. Remember that just so you can kind of see a little bit better. So they're all pointing towards the center, but they're arranged in what we call the linchpin configuration. I'll pretend you've never heard of that before. So there's one on the top, and then three in groups of three around that are spaced at 120 degrees apart. And the tilt of these ones on the bottom here is 109.5 degrees in relationship to the top ones. They're creating this flat space on the top and the bottom. And they're spaced at 120 degrees radially. And then inside the model is three groups.
Jamie, there's two sounds playing simultaneously.
No, he's got sound in the background.
While he's
that's
doing
my
it?
wife talking. We're in the kitchen, and he's just explaining himself to Sky.
Recorded from the
This is on the Sky.
I was confused. Go ahead.
Up to 1,000 pounds, from 2.2 pounds to 1,000 pounds. And there's no gravity whatsoever in this model. There's no center attractor. So it's just vortexes and two magnetic fields, a north and a south polarity, and one harmonic resonance, which is emanating a vibration in the field. In this, so that the particles will kind of interact and bounce around like smoke or water, waves and water. And then when I hit play, it does it all by itself using physics simulations. So there's no animations at all in this model. And when I play it, this is what pops out.
Holy fuck.
Wow.
And then when I look down at the top, it makes the actual hexagon that NASA has observed on the top of Saturn without any gravity. And you see that you get a surface of the sphere on the inside with the heavier particles. So the colors of
I mean,
Yeah. So,
Why
I
is it
mean,
that science that they're
close this up.
so it's hard to tell like what's in that simulation, right? But they're basically saying there's no gravity that they're using. They're using two magnetic fields and whatever else that they've plugged into that simulation, it's creating Saturn without gravity. And Terrence Howard's theory that there is no gravity, that
Right.
gravity is a byproduct of the spin of the planet, but it's not separate from that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty like you'd have to. First off, you'd probably have to watch the whole podcast to even like really grasp even sort of that concept of where they were at with building that. But it's proving his point in a scientific simulation, a controlled environment, right? And he gets to put in the inputs, and these were his inputs on his theory, and then
Right.
it creates the exact planet that is in that exact spot on from the distance from the sun and all this other stuff. It's like, so he can just basically create other planets too. He should be able to recreate Earth as well, doing that
I'm
same
sure
thing.
that's in there, in the future. That would be my next move if I were him, to try
I mean,
and
maybe they went
recreate
with
it.
Saturn first because it's such like a kind of like a unique shape, you know?
Right, with the rings around it and stuff like that.
Sorry, we stopped live on Instagram for whatever reason. I think it was because we played the YouTube video and it doesn't like
Oh, maybe also it's over an hour. Maybe it has a time limit.
that. Possibly. But
We
anyways,
should
yeah.
probably wrap it
Yeah,
up
we're gonna wrap it
anyway. I gotta get ready for work.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah, no, I'm happy to be back talking about this nerdy ass shit again. I mean,
Yep.
it's been a while, but we've been super busy, and I'd like to try to like do a once a week again if we can get back on that. We'll see.
Yep.
But,
I think we try when we can, and it's always good. I'd love to get more people on too, chatting with other people that are on this frequency, on this wavelength, this vibration.
yeah, me and David have been talking about a couple of guests that we might be able to get on and talk about, like, go deeper into like either hydrogen or maybe further explain kind of some of these things that we talked about today.
Yeah.
So we will be working on that, and we'll keep you posted.
Yeah. Until next time.
Yes, sir. All right. See you later.
All right, brother. Peace. Peace, everyone. If you're still on, you lasted the whole hour.
Love you all. Bye.